traveling to another dimension. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
There are many themes the Twilight Zone return to explore in different ways, isolation being one of them. Characters such as Henry Bemis from Time Enough at Last, the Amnesiac from Where Is Everybody, and even Archibald Beechcroft from The Mind and the Matter all faced crushing loneliness in their own way. However, the episode we're discussing today, The Lonely, goes more of a sci-fi route and takes us down an unusual path. The Lonely was episode 7 from season 1, it was directed by Jack Smite, and written by Rod Serling. As always, spoilers are ahead.
Witness, if you will, a dungeon made out of mountains, salt flats, and sand that stretch to infinity. The dungeon has an inmate, James A. Corey, and this is his residence. For the record, let it be known that James A. Corey is a convicted criminal placed in solitary confinement. Confinement in this case stretches as far as the eye can see.
The year is 2046, and we meet inmate James Corey, as played by Jack Warden. Corey has been sentenced to solitary confinement, with the twist being his time is to be served on a distant asteroid. So this truly is solitary confinement in every sense of the word. When we're first introduced to Corey, he's utterly miserable. This insane level of loneliness is driving him over the edge, and who can blame him? As it turns out, Corey's criminal history isn't exactly cut and dry. Although he was convicted of murder, he claims it was self-defense. And I think it was wise to include this backstory. Since the possibility exists that Corey may have been wrongly imprisoned, his hope for a pardon becomes all the more meaningful. One thing Corey does have to look forward to is a supply ship that brings him necessities 4 times a year. When a scheduled visit arrives, Corey is ecstatic. He greets the supply crew with cheers, and he's anxious as heck for human companionship. And it's little moments like this that sell just how grueling life is for Corey. I mean, think about it. Here's a guy with zero communication with anyone, day in and day out. Nobody's visiting this guy 9 million miles from Earth, so these quarterly supply ships are the highlight of his life. It's about here that we meet Captain Allenby, as played by character actor John Denner. We've seen him before in the Twilight Zone in 2 other creepy episodes, The Jungle and Mr. Garrity and the Graves. Allenby tries to make life a bit more tolerable by bringing Corey a few extra items here and there. It's even noted that he brought the parts Corey needed to put together the antique car we see sitting in front of the shack. So it's clear Allenby is a friend and someone who has sympathy for Corey's situation. One of the other crew members, Adams, is not as understanding. Adams is bitter and resents being away from Earth due to these long-distance supply runs. Adams is even thrilled to deliver the news that Corey's pardon was rejected.
The sentence reads 50 years, and they're not even reviewing cases of homicide.
As unpleasant as this back and forth was between Adams and Corey, it's also great writing. By showing the 2 sides of how some feel about Corey's solitary confinement, it allows us to consider different perspectives. Before leaving, Allenby leaves Corey a mysterious gift.
You are now the proud possessor of a robot built in the form of a woman. To all intent and purpose, this creature is a woman.
So Allenby has given Corey a highly advanced robot named Alicia. On my first viewing, this reveal was great. I was already hooked by the performances and the concept, but this development only made things all the more interesting. Now we learn that Alicia is capable of emotions. She has a basic human lifespan, and she can retain memories, so you'd think Corey would be happy to have this companion. But he rejects her, quite harshly actually.
You're just like this heap. A hunk of metal with arms and legs instead of wheels. That's all you are. A reminder to me that I'm so lonely I'm about to lose my mind.
After Alicia displays what seems like genuine emotion, including pain and heartache, Corey finally comes around.
I can feel loneliness too.
We skip ahead 11 months, and we're told via Corey's narration that he's fallen in love with Alicia. This was an intriguing angle. Corey essentially went from despising her to fully embracing this human-robot relationship.
A bizarre tale of a man and a woman? I don't understand it either.
We also learn that Alicia's personality is basically a mirror of Corey's. What he loves, she learns to love. And this is something I think does come back into play at a deeper level in the conclusion. When the supply ship returns, Captain Allenby brings great news. Murder cases have been reviewed and Corey has finally received his pardon. The real problem is there are 7 other passengers from other asteroids on the ship, so there's only enough room for Corey and 15 pounds of luggage. Obviously, Corey doesn't care about luggage. Alicia is his biggest concern. So the harsh realization sets in, Alicia can't return with him. And it's here that the tension picks up.
You don't understand. You leave her behind. That's murder.
Corey, now wait a minute. I haven't got any choice. Don't you understand?
Corey passionately argues that Alicia isn't just a robot, she's a woman. Unfortunately, things take a grim turn.
I have no choice at all.
Corey?
No. No!
Corey.
This moment was a gut punch. The sight of what's left of Alicia is a blunt wake-up call for Corey. Soon, everyone returns to the ship, and Allenby tries to console Corey by telling him all he's leaving behind is loneliness. Corey says that he must remember to keep that in mind. So, this was yet another solid and well-written Twilight Zone episode. The concept of prisoners being kept on distant asteroids is an idea that's out there, but I was able to go with it and enjoy it for what it was. Plus, within the story, the stress of this impractical system was addressed, and eventually this form of solitary confinement was even abandoned. Speaking of stress, the harsh and brutal Death Valley setting was ideal for a story like this. The Lonely was the first of many Twilight Zones to shoot on location in Death Valley. Filming of this episode was said to be a nightmare. Crew members suffered from dehydration and heat exhaustion. Apparently, temperatures went as high as 130 degrees. It's no wonder the director of photography, George Clemens, at one point was said to have passed out and fell off a camera crane during filming.
Come on, Corey. Time to go home. It's all behind you now, Corey.
Now, obviously the ending was bittersweet, and that's something I did want to go into a bit. We learned through Corey's narration that he basically fell in love with the reflection of himself. So, was the destruction of Alicia something that was necessary to shatter the illusion and help get Corey back to reality? Also, it's left up in the air how well he'll deal with the loss of Alicia. For all intents and purposes, she was taken from him. Granted, Alicia was a robot, but his love for her was real enough to him.
I'm Rachel.
Deckard.
This story covers similar ground we've seen in other sci-fi, and it asks the same questions. Is the love between a human and a robot or AI merely an illusion? Star Trek The Next Generation also covered this topic via Lieutenant Commander Data. He also had himself a few human relationships during the course of the series.
I'm sorry, don't let me interrupt.
As you wish.
I have to mention Emmy-winning and Academy Award-nominated Jack Warden. He was great here. Warden plays Corey as a guy who's tough on the outside and struggles with inner demons on the inside. But he shows range here as he goes from being lonely, bitter, and defeated to a more calmer and caring demeanor. Like John Denner, this also wasn't Warden's only trip to the fifth dimension. He also appeared in The Mighty Casey. Jack had a career that spanned decades, appearing in TV and movies such as 12 Angry Men, Heaven Can Wait, and Justice for All. I also wanted to spotlight Alicia, as played very well by Jean Marsh. Initially, we see that she's programmed with basic knowledge, and she does seem cold and robotic.
My name's Alicia. What's your name?
But as the story progresses, she does seem to become more human. This was a subtle and understated performance. Jean Marsh had quite a career. She's also known for roles in A Changeling, Return to Oz, not to mention Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy. But I think the main thing I'll always remember her for is the 1988 fantasy epic Willow, where she played the evil queen, Bab Morda.
Where's the baby? The midwife. Find that baby, Sosha. Use the dogs.
You've been here 4 years now, so that makes 46 more to go, so make yourself comfortable, huh?
One last cast member I wanted to mention was Adams. You may not have recognized this uncredited actor. He was a lot younger, and he was wearing a retro space helmet.
Well, we're waiting.
That's right, it's Ted Knight from Caddyshack, who's also famous for his roles in The Mary Tyler Moore Show and Too Close for Comfort. In my view, The Lonely was another top-tier entry in the Twilight Zone series. I do feel like it could have used a bit more time to flesh out the relationship between Corey and Alicia, so perhaps this is yet another episode that could have benefited from the longer runtime. But I still highly recommend this one. I give it 4 out of 5 robots. I also wanted to take a moment for a special shout out to Terence Miguana, a fellow YouTuber who's been supportive for the longest time. Check out Terence's channel when you can, he has killer content. He reviews a variety of films, and he does daily live streams with interesting topics each and every time. So that's it for me. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. If you've seen The Lonely and have thoughts on this episode, feel free to comment below. If you enjoyed this review, hit that sub button, hit that like button, it really helps. Until next time, be well and take care. Later.